Hello and welcome grade 11s to the History Crew channel. This video serves as part 2.3 and deals with topic 3 of your syllabus, which is ideas of race in the late 19th and 20th centuries. We will now discuss the Holocaust. Please note that some viewers may find the content very disturbing. I have tried to avoid being extremely graphic. Viewer discretion is advised. Hitler had written about his extreme prejudice against the Jews in a book called the Mein Kampf, My Struggle. The campaign against the Jews was introduced in stages, each more severe than the last. Firstly, the Nazi government encouraged people to boycott Jewish-owned shops and businesses. Then in June 1933, Jews were dismissed from employment in the civil service, education, the newspapers and in any form of entertainment. The 1935 Nuremberg laws took away their rights as citizens, banned marriages between Jews and non-Jewish Germans, and stated that the property of any Jew who left Germany would be seized by the state. All Jews had to wear a Star of David badge to identify them as Jews when they appeared in public. In the image, you can clearly see that Jewish-owned shops were identified and targeted. Germans were told to not support these shops. Many Jewish-owned businesses were vandalized and even destroyed. The Nazis felt free to do so, when they were in complete control of Germany. And then they became even more brutal and cruel. Once the Nazis were in complete control, they could do whatever they wanted, and no one could stop them. This meant that the Nazis could now become more violent and cruel, because they were in charge. During the Second World War, which started in 1939, the Nazis took control of other European countries, and there were Jews living there as well. The Nazis began to carry out the same form of persecution against the Jews and other minorities, as they did in Germany. Jews were forced to leave their homes and live in overcrowded ghettos. A ghetto is the part of a city in which members of a minority live and is often known for being a very poor, socio-economic area. To keep the Jews trapped in the ghetto, the Nazis erected brick walls and barbed wire fences. The people were not given food or water, and many died in the ghetto. Bodies lay on the streets for days and days. The Nazis kept the Jews in ghettos until the main part of their plan was ready. Later the policy of persecution became one of genocide, and death camps were established in an attempt to kill all the Jews in Europe. The Nazis constructed death camps all over Europe, and when they were ready, the Jews were transported from the ghettos to the death camps. The Nazis called this the final solution. It was a deliberate and conscious decision by the Nazis to kill all the Jews. All of them. Jews from all over Europe were then taken to the death camps in overcrowded cattle trucks and trains. They were being sent to their deaths. The final solution. Horrible deaths. There would be no hope after this. In the death camps, they were put to death with poisonous gas and their bodies burned. Gas was considered the most suitable and cost-effective method for mass murder. For the genocide they had planned. The first image is an example of a room, in which many Jews were crammed into and then gassed to death. The second image is an example of the ovens used to burn their bodies. An estimated 6 million Jews died in these death camps, with no mercy. The final solution. Men, women and children. Those who starved and died, shot to death or gassed to death, were also dumped into mass graves with hundreds of other bodies. The final solution was the Nazi plan, to exterminate all Jews. Look at these piles of spectacles and shoes. What do you think they mean? If you are thinking that these piles of spectacles and shoes represent the millions of Jews who were exterminated, murdered in the many death camps, you would be correct. There were millions. In May 1945, when the Allied armies of USA and Russia reached Berlin, Hitler committed suicide to avoid being caught, and Nazi Germany then surrendered. The body of Hitler was apparently burnt by one of his men, before it could be found. As a result, Hitler's death has never been fully confirmed, which has led to many conspiracy theories that he escaped and may even still be alive. Other Nazis also committed suicide, and some tried to flee from Germany, because they wanted to avoid punishment and revenge. Many Nazis may have escaped to Argentina and other countries in South America, as well as the rest of the world. Those who were captured were put on trial. The trials were publicized so that everyone would know what had happened and would realize that people have to be accountable for their actions. The Allies set up an international court at Nuremberg, in the same place where the Nazis passed the Nuremberg Law, which took away the rights of Jews as German citizens. In November 1945, 22 leading Nazis were put on trial. They were charged with crimes against peace and crimes against humanity. 19 of them were found guilty, 12 were sentenced to death and the others given prison sentences. In the next few years thousands of other Nazis were put on trial. These included concentration camp guards, army officers who had killed prisoners in Eastern Europe, industrialists who had used slave labor in their factories or had manufactured the poisonous gas that was used in the death camps, and doctors who had carried out inhumane medical experiments. Thousands of them were given prison sentences. Trials have continued over the years since the Second World War as more Nazi war criminals have been discovered. In the second image, we are informed of a case as recent as March 2020. The man, who is now 94 years old, was living in America for many decades. No one really knew his identity, but now that he had been exposed, he will be deported from USA to Germany where he will face trial for war crimes. He was a guard at one of the death camps. The genocide carried out in Nazi Germany raises many questions for us to think about today. Firstly, one of them is about ethics and morals. If you see something that is wrong, should you keep quiet or take action? If you keep quiet, are you then just as bad and guilty as the perpetrators? Then there is the danger of voting men as evil as Hitler into power. Hitler was a dictator and tyrant, who would encourage his supporters to acts of violence, vandalism and intimidation. Once leaders like him have risen to power, history has shown that their actions leads to prejudice, rise in racially motivated attacks and death. Leaders like these must not be allowed into power. You should aim to become more socially conscious, and be critical thinkers so that you will not be brainwashed by propaganda. Do not buckle under the weight of peer pressure and respect the human rights of all those around, as you would want them to respect you too. In conclusion, the words of Martin Luther King Jr. are still as important as on the day he spoke them. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Thank you for watching this video and please remember to subscribe to the History Crew channel.